What's up, Leafs fans, and welcome to Leafs Digest. We're back here breaking down Game 55 of the regular season versus the Ottawa Senators. One game left in the season after this one. Tomorrow night against Winnipeg. Friday night against Winnipeg, sorry. Leafs lose against the Sens 4-3 in overtime. Tough one to bite. Honestly, you got guys like Nick Foligno jumps back in after his injury, makes his way back into the lineup, sees himself on a different line playing with Tavares and Nylander, and then Ben Hutton gets another chance at the lineup. But the biggest guy that we got to see back in the lineup last night, Frederik Andersen. So 4-3 loss, Freddie Andersen in net making his return after a month and a half, I think. He missed 20-something games of this season. But overall, we basically got what we expected from Freddie Andersen, and it was almost best case scenario of what you and I described in the last pod that we did, in that Freddie Andersen had essentially a respectable loss. He didn't get blown out. 4 goals against isn't ideal. You never really want to put up a 4 spot on you, but it happens from time to time, and your first game back in over a month and a half, I'd say almost 2 months at this point, 20-something games. It's tough, but it also sets us up well for the playoffs here, because we know what we're going in with. We know what our setup is going to be, and it's basically what you and I predicted in the last pod. Josh, how do you feel about Freddie putting up or letting 4 in last night, and then how our stance is with our goaltending situation heading into the playoffs here?
We got what we asked for. Freddie went out there. He didn't play horrendous, but didn't play great. There was a lot of goals that he could have had. At least 2 of them, I thought to myself, Freddie could have had that. Sharp Freddie would have had that. Mm-hmm. So that it sucked from that angle. But like I said, this isn't about trying to bring Freddie back. It's about trying to be sure about our direction. And at this point, we feel pretty comfortable that's not Fred this year. We got good options. We can move on to that. And it was a good, like I said, I wanted to see a respectable loss from our team. And when you battle, you get Austin Matthews tying it up to send it into overtime. Pesky Sens, right? What are you going to do? They like to play spoiler. Yeah. But I liked what I saw from our players. Foligno showing a little bit of toughness. Nylander flashing skill. Like I said, Matthews also tucking again. There was some really, really redeeming things about this game, but unfortunately, Freddie was not one of them. But in the greater scheme of things, that's probably a blessing.
Yeah, and not to kind of dig into Freddie too much here, because we know what the situation is going to be, and I'm not overly worried about it going in, because we know he's not going to be our starter in the playoffs here. But I mean, I'm probably going to sound like a Freddie hater here. I understand that, but Freddie kind of just looked like a lesser Freddie last night. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times we see Freddie be lethargic in net. We see him maybe make the first save, but then struggle to get to the second one, and then they score on the rebound. And then a lot of people will apologize for him and say, oh, well, the team should have picked this guy up, or they should have done that, etc. But that being said, it almost looks like Freddie doesn't fight for that second chance. And last night coming back, yeah, maybe this injury has hindered him, not having the game experience, not being up to speed. Yeah, it doesn't help. You can't say, oh, well, he should be 100 or 110% going here and all cylinders firing, because it's just not the case when he missed that long. But, the first goal, not much chance, completely screened by Hutton and Nick Paul in front of the net. Point shot goes in, posting in. And it's just to nitpick that little bit is just, yeah, he was screened, and it's really hard to see through there and get to that puck, and you can't blame him at all, but you'd almost like to see him fight through that screen a little bit more and maybe try to get to it just a little bit. Maybe you're trying to push around and look for that screen. He kind of just sat behind it. Then you go to the second period. Connor Brown on the Leafs power play has a chance, gets a shot, or gets a breakaway, sorry. Freddie loses the puck, spins out of control out of the net. He's sitting basically almost in the corner, he's not even in near the crease, and Connor Brown fires the rebound, hits Matthews trying to make the save, goes in the net. And then the third goal was just a point shot that deflects wide, goes to the far corner to Parker Kelly, undrafted player for the Sens. Great for him, scores his first NHL goal, but fires it from the goal line, essentially, bounces off Freddie's pad, crosses the line. Freddie tries to grab it out of the air, but too late. It's already in. And it just kind of seemed like, yep, that's Freddie. I don't know any other way to put it other than that's Freddie. And it was just more lethargic because he was out that much longer. So I don't know. Like, I don't want to harp on him too long and spend too much time sitting here breaking down Freddy and what he was up to, because it's not overly concerning. That's not the story that we're heading in with the playoffs with, but those are some of the points that I saw last night out of him. But one of the big stories last night, and something I think we really, really do need to cover here, is the power play. The power play has been atrocious for a while now. It's been building and building and building as being worse and worse and worse. And it's something that every game you're like, can we just not have this power play, please? Like, I'd rather play 5-on-5 because we have a better chance. Like, I'd rather play penalty kill because our penalty killers almost create more chances. Mikheyev with his speed and Marner with his creativity. Like, it's just, these guys create more chances than the power play. And it was completely evident. Again, you go to that first goal that Muzzin scored. Basically, it came off of another Connor Brown chance on shorthanded here. Like, Brown fires down the wing, gets a shot, almost gets a rebound and gets a wraparound going, and then you go the other way, and the second power play unit ends up scoring, which I think they've been the better unit. But Goody, what do you have to say about the Leafs power play thus far, and do you think this is fixable heading into the playoffs?
I've liked our second unit more, and I think the drop passes on the zone entries have been something that...
Yeah, the ones to Marner on the first unit.
Yes, and I'm sure at some point it was working well. I can say for certain out the gate it was working really well.
Yeah.
But teams clue into that kind of thing, and especially when you're in a rigged up division year where you face everyone so many times, you get to learn the opponent pretty well.
Yeah, like you know their playbook.
Well, especially when you got star-studded players on that power play. I'm sure before you face the Leafs, neutralizing the power play is something you look at. Mm-hmm. And when you get the second line of penalty killers too, that's probably a bias there to say that, you know, Willie Nylander and the rest of that group, they get a little bit more of an easy shot at the net. Regardless, the creativity has been way more out of that group. The zone entries have been way better. I think that the penalty kill is coming to where it needs to be. But I agree with you in the sense that it hasn't been the first line, which is really ironic when you look how stacked up it is.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, there's two things that I kind of want to get to on that. And the first one I'll just cover briefly is that it sucks when the power play isn't generating chances and getting goals, but it sucks a whole lot more when they're giving up chances. You have an extra man on the ice. You should not be giving up breakaways and 2-on-1s on the power play. That is something that should never happen, and it's not acceptable. And here and there, it's going to happen. You're going to give up shorthanded goals in a season. That's just the way she goes. But it shouldn't be happening at the rate that it's happening. It happens so frequently. Like last night, you look at that first goal that Muzzin scored started with Connor Brown getting a chance on shorthanded there, flying down, having that shot from the wing, almost getting the wraparound. And then you look later in the game, power play 1, lethargic again. I'm just abusing that word this pod, but just slow, lackadaisical. Matthews passes to Nylander, turnover, Brown goes the other way, breakaway, doesn't score on the breakaway, gets the rebound, puts it in. And it's just like, you can't be giving up chances like this, especially when the playoffs come. Short-handed goals are such momentum builders. Like, that is a killer. It's a killer to your team who was on the power play, and it is a killer to the momentum of the game because the team that was killing the penalty and has having those chances, and then if they're capitalizing on them on top of that, it's just a heartbreaker altogether. But to the point of the stars all being loaded up on that first unit, I honestly am starting to feel like it's just too much offensive power. Like, I think they need to go back and just break it down a little bit.
I agree completely with that take. And you have a bunch of people who, like Marner and Matthews, you can't underestimate that kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
But when it's your 5-on-5 approach and your power play approach,
mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, you know, you got to diversify a bit. You definitely do. And especially when we get into the playoffs where I already said we've been used to this year facing the same team over and over again. In the playoffs, it's consecutive. So they'll pick up on that stuff even faster.
Yeah.
So I would like to see more people get involved. And honestly, I would like to see Willie maybe make his way up to that first one.
Willie's been on it in the past, like, couple weeks, I think, actually. Willie's been on that first power play. Yeah. And Simmonds coming back, he slotted into the second one there. Simmonds, Kerfoot, Spezza, Thornton, and last night Muzzin was on that second unit. Yeah.
And I don't mind Simmonds there because he's someone who's been a really underrated playmaker for us. Mm-hmm. And I say that in a way it's not been crisp. It's not been pretty. But when he has the puck, he makes really good decisions. I mean, that's more just a veteran thing than anything. But still, I don't mind putting him out there on the power play when I can trust he's going to make the right decision. He's got the speed and the length. I really think that, he's the guy that out there, he will be a big difference maker for us, and he's going to keep us level headed. I think that Simmonds is a cool fit on there, actually. What do you think about the composition of the power plays right now? What would you do to switch it up or keep it the same?
Yeah, so like honestly, I think Hyman coming back will be a big thing. And what I think can happen with it, and it's just me kind of getting creative and throwing a wrench and everything to jumble everything up and see how it goes, is more so like I would move Tavares and Nylander to the second unit. I would push Thornton and Spezza back up to where they were at the beginning. And then I would throw Hyman back onto that second unit when he's back and you take Kerfoot out. I personally think Sandin should be quarterbacking power play 1, and if that means Morgan Riley quarterbacks power play 2, so be it. I'm fine with that. I don't have any issues with it. But my thought on that is more so right now, and to our both of our points actually, is that with all those guys on that first unit, it's almost like they're all like, no, you shoot the puck. No, you shoot the puck. Like Jackie Moon getting the ball and saying, I'm here if you need it. Like, I'm here if you need it kind of thing. He's like always ready, but he doesn't want to shoot it, and then he throws it back. He's like, they're all like, yeah, I'm open. Okay, no. You're open. You shoot it. And they just dish back and forth. And then it's like, okay, can somebody shoot? Like, I'm not going to be a fan sitting in the stands screaming shoot every time you touch the puck. But holy crap, guys, like 2 minutes has gone by and we had one shot that missed the net by 2 feet. Like, it's just everyone wants everyone else to touch the puck. And I think that Matthews and Marner going on that first one, Marner obviously driving, passing. Thornton, great passer. Simmonds can park his butt right in front of the net, create distractions, and obviously no slight to Wayne Simmonds, but nobody's looking at Wayne Simmonds like nobody on the Leafs is looking at him saying that's our priority. We got to get Simmonds the puck. Like you're looking Matthews,
No.
and then externally you're looking at the other options, and then you move it down to the second line. You look at Tavares and Nylander. Spezza plays the Thornton role. Hyman plays the Simmonds role. Tavares and Nylander, both threats on that line to be goal scorers and also make things happen. And I think it just balances it out a little bit more because it's like you said, that second unit facing little bit less competition, because the first unit is taking the best penalty kill unit. So then you just go there and you're like, okay, now we have these threats on that second unit who can go out there and play someone lesser, and now maybe they can mix it up. Now maybe the other team is sitting there scrambling, not knowing what to do and how to stop them because it's so balanced. And you look at that too. Sometimes people don't like to balance lines throughout like your 1 through 4 through 5-on-5 because you say, oh, well, then it can be too broken down. It's the power play, guys. Don't overthink it. Just give them the time, give your shooters your shooting options, and don't overload it. Just let them play.
Right, I agree. That's actually a really good point. And just to backtrack a slight little bit, when I was talking about Wayne Simmonds as an underrated puck handler, I mean that in the sense that even if you're in front of the net as the screen guy, just when rotations happen and puck possession reoccurs, sometimes he will end up touching the puck with open space and moving it around. And if he's the guy, I mean, if Wayne Simmonds is the useless dude that you're going to toss in front of the net to redirect shots, he's got a great set of hands for that guy.
JVR
so I'm really
almost.
happy. Yeah, well, I mean, JVR is like, world class at it.
Yes. I just mean it like that's almost your, yeah.
Definitely. He can fill that role where it's like, I even argue that Wayne's JVR is so slow that he hardly makes plays with the puck. Like Wayne's a fast guy. He can whip the puck around. He's just so smart too. That's really what blows me away about Wayne is he makes the right plays all the time. I honestly feel like he was the missing piece to what we really needed. I said that on an earlier pod as well, but I'm just super pleased with Wayne. Even on nights where he's kind of quiet, I'm just kind of blown away by the poise and also where he's brought us mentally.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the smarts all around have gone up, especially with bringing in these veteran guys and just the savviness and the poise. Overall, guys are more confident and comfortable making that play and taking a second and reading the situation. And I think that the confidence that those veterans have brought in has really helped. As far as the grit goes, and something that I think is going to be really, really, really important come playoff time, one thing that just stood out to me, and it's a small thing, and a lot of people who maybe don't like the grittiness or the fighting in hockey are going to be like, oh, boo-hoo. Well, Nick Foligno, there was just one little play that kind of happened. Brady Tkachuk crashes a net on Freddy, kind of stuck him a little bit. Nothing outrageous, nothing really deserving of a penalty. But Willie grabs him from behind, kind of tries to pull him out of there. Not really going to do anything. It's Nylander. Like, what threat is he going to pose, especially to Brady Tkachuk? That's a big, tough boy. But Foligno comes flying in and just starts jabbing Tkachuk, grabs him, starts trying to maul him. Like, they're going at it. And it's just another statement of saying, like, hey, you're not going to touch us. Like, you don't get away with that kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't even have to be, I'm going to beat the absolute pulp out of you. You can just grab the guy and give him a good shakedown, and he knows, like, the next time he goes to the net, you're going to be standing there face to face with him. And I love that from him.
Yeah, you gotta punch a guy like Tkachuk in the mouth. Like, seriously, yeah. if you let him get confident and make him feel like he can take liberties on you, and that's how he plays. He starts thriving when he feels a little bit of fear or a little bit of guys accepting the punishment. We saw it earlier when they came back from, what was it, like down 4 goals to tie it up at 5-5 and win in overtime. I think it was one of the first matchups the Leafs had with the Sens this season, and it was all sparked by a fight by Brady Tkachuk. And I love that. I remember that fight was Brady sparking it. He was the guy that said, I'm dropping the mitts, let's get this going. I love that Foligno, before he can do something really stupid like spear our goalie or, rip off someone else's bucket, he goes in there and says, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's see it. Let's see it. I love that so much. The Leafs have missed that just so much over the past few years. Foligno, he's there as a skilled bodyguard, and we're excited to see it. He really blows people up too. The physicality from the guy is awesome. But yeah, back to the topic of Tkachuk, you can't let that guy think that anyone out there is scared of him. Because if he thinks that people are scared, his game elevates.
It really does.
And a guy like Foligno will bring him back down to earth.
Yeah, and one thing, too, that's kind of nice is Foligno being able to slot into those top 2 lines, whether it be on the first or the second line, is that he adds that element of fear to the other team that doesn't normally exist there. Because, let's face it, like, Galchenyuk is not a scary dude. And Zack, as tough and balls to the wall as he is, he's not scary either. You're not scared of him. Nick Foligno, if that guy came at me with those crazy eyes and that, like, just swinging at me almost, just like swinging at me, ready to go, I'd be like, oh my God, okay, never mind. Like, I can't take liberties on these lines, which I think is nice to have because it's someone that can play with those guys and can keep up and can keep the smarts going with them and create chances, but can also back them up and be on the ice for situations like last night. Like, Nylander's not going to go at Tkachuk. Like, he's going to grab him. Great for him. Kudos. But that's about the extent of it. Whereas Nick Foligno is going to take that next step and say, hey, you're not doing that again. We're both going to the box here. Let's go sit down for 2 minutes because you're going to learn your lesson. You're not going to come near the goalie again.
Exactly. And that type of commodity is only going to be of rising value to us heading into the playoffs. I mean, if we thought it was important to have in our lineup in the second last game of the season against the Senators, imagine how important it's going to feel when we go into these tight playoff series with a team like the Canadiens.
Yeah, exactly. And then Tavares and Nylander, I have to say, those 2 guys have been buzzing lately. Tavares' goal last night was just another prime example of that. Not necessarily him doing anything spectacular, but from start to finish of that goal, Muzzin keeping the puck in at the line, not doing anything too crazy with it, not creating a turnover or overhandling the puck, just fires it in deep where Leafs players are. Nylander grabs it. Great knock out of the air, actually. He, like, one hand knocks the puck out of the air, grabs it on his backhand, fires a no-look pass to Tavares right out front, one-time shot, goal. Those 2 guys have been playing unreal lately, and I think this is going to be great for us heading into the playoffs because they can keep that momentum rolling, and whoever they keep put on that line, I'm thinking, especially after last night, it might be Foligno to start the series at least. I think Sheldon Keefe is very fluid with his lines, which is nice to see, but I think it's going to be Foligno to start, and I think Hyman will go back to that first line, just kind of how things were shaking out last night, but those 2 guys, if they can keep that rolling, it just creates so many more threats heading into the playoffs that other teams have to worry about because it's not just about the top line anymore. It's those 2 guys can keep it going, and that's what they're expected to do, and that's what they should be doing. And we shouldn't be jumping off, like, going crazy here saying, wow, oh my God, they're doing unbelievable. But it's been great to watch because this is what they should be doing.
100%. And it's also ridiculous because I feel like most people who are casual watchers of the NHL or just follow the Leafs sort of remotely, I guess I'll say, they probably would think that Johnny T he's having a quiet season. And I know he's not having the seasons he's had before, but he's still playing lights out for us.
Point per
And if you
game.
need to, yeah, and think about it though. I mean, people are still saying like, oh, where's Johnny T with all the goals? You know, Johnny T has been a goal scorer, like, at times almost a little bit more deadly than Matthews even felt, just because he got such a high quantity of them. Obviously, Matthews scores way nicer goals. He's the better player. I just mean JT has been a guy that we can always rely on in the big moments to step up and get a chance. And I think because he's sort of reformatted his game to allow more offense to flow to Marner and Matthews, I think that he's taken back that seat a little bit, not too much. But I think when people from the outside looking in, they just assume that he's not up to what he used to be. I think that's the opposite. He's really adjusted to the role we need him in. And he's recognized that these young kids coming up, they are hot right now, Willie included. I think that, well, in my opinion, Johnny T is still as great of a player as we thought he was, despite the storylines of Marner and Matthews really being the main narrative of the season.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, my comparison might be for Tavares, and this is a little like far-fetched, and people might find this one silly, but do you remember in the first Incredibles movie when Dash figures out he's super fast and he's running the track race at the end, and his parents are sitting in the stands and he's running really fast, and then he looks at them and they're telling him to slow down, so he slows down, he's way too slow, and then he's way too fast again, and then he's too slow, and then he finds the right speed. It's like Tavares when he came here. I think he scored 40 goals in his first season and he was flying. And then he was almost like, okay, I need to take a step back because I'm not the goal scorer. And obviously he's not playing with Matthews and Marner, but he was like, hit the brakes too hard. And then everyone was like, whoa, what happened to Johnny T? And then it was like, he sped up again and it was like, okay, he's playing out of his mind. And then he had that slowdown again. And now he's like, found his speed. He's found the right speed that he should be playing at, and he's found the right tempo, and he's like, okay, this is my game. I can be the goal scorer. I can be a goal scorer. I just have to know in the back of my mind I'm not the number one goal scorer.
Well, there's always going to be pressure too if you wear the C for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like,
yeah,
needing to be fluid from that role. I'm sure he always feels the comments where it's like, "Where's Johnny T?" Yeah, he's a Toronto guy and all that stuff. I'm sure he's got an ear to the ground in the city. So, it's a casual take. Johnny T is really good. He's still the player he always was. He's in a new role, right? He's on the best team he's ever been on before. So for those reasons, he's got to step back a little bit and kind of find a niche. But I think that in the playoffs, he might emerge as like not a top option, but a guy who comes and saves our asses a few times.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's almost like what we need from him. It's not even just like, I hope this happens. It's like, we need him to do that. That's what he's kind of expected to do. You're making $11 million a year. You got to perform, man.
Yeah. He's got an act for the heroics, too, which is good.
Yeah, yeah. One more thing from last night's game, we can touch on it briefly before we head off here, is terrible giveaway by Mitch Marner on the OT winner by Josh Norris. The 3-on-3, it's so entertaining, but I'm glad it's not going to happen in the playoffs because the Leafs have not been great in the 3-on-3s this year. I love watching playoff hockey 5-on-5 overtime when it can just run and run and run. Sometimes it goes a little too long, but like, it's just intense hockey. Every single shift, every single second matters so much more. And you get to see, like, air quotes, real hockey, right? Like, it's 5v5, it's legit, and it keeps going. But basically, let's hope that was the last 3v3 overtime we see of this season. I kind of don't want to see it against the Jets just because it's a little bit tough to watch lately, but Matthews kind of scrums the faceoff, wins it a little bit. Marner goes to pick up the puck. No look, soft backhand bank pass off the boards, trying to throw it back to Morgan Rielly, and he wasn't even down the boards. Brady Tkachuk picks it off. Rielly caught in no man's land, 2-on-1, backdoor pass. Not too much to break down there. It's 9 seconds into the overtime, but I don't know, man. What did you think about that Marner turnover?
It's ugly. I always think that Marner's game it's weird because he holds on to the puck too long. He does. But would I rather tell him to change that? I don't think so. I've had my years of getting angry at my TV over Marner turning over the puck at the blue line on the power play because he's trying to do a big figure eight or something to swoop back in. And the Leafs fans know what I'm talking about with Mitch, where it can get really ugly before it gets really pretty.
Yeah.
He's always thinking pass, even when he should be thinking shoot. But all these things that I'm nitpicking here, they're really hidden blessings, right? We have such a creative player who finds, in general, enough success to justify these mishaps that he has. So I'm not going to read too deeply into it. I'm happy that this happened tonight and not in a few days from now. That would have been worse. So whatever, we'll get those jitters out of the way with. I know with Mitch, I'm kind of used to having those plays where I'm scratching my head, but I'm thinking, oh, what if he got through or whatever. I know this one was just horrendous. He just threw it back into the zone so they could 2-on-1, but typically they're not that magnitude of mistakes. That one, it looked terrible, but I'm confident in Mitch. And I think as he makes these mistakes, he'll just have more and more of a higher rate of success.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. There's not much to say other than that. It was a bad turnover. It happens, I guess. You don't really want to see it, and you hope that it doesn't happen in a bigger moment or a more important moment when it comes to playoff time. Pretty evident and glaring when it happens in overtime, especially against the Sens, and it's 9 seconds in. But hey, tough pill to swallow. You take it, you move on, and that's about it for Game 55 versus Ottawa Senators recap. 4-3 overtime loss. Leafs battled back. They were down 3-1. They battled back to tie it 3-3 off an Austin Matthews goal with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left in the third period. And then they lose it in overtime on a 2-on-1, 9 seconds into the 3-on-3 overtime. But we will see you guys after Game 56, the final game of this regular season, this shortened season, Friday, May 14th at 8 p.m. against the Winnipeg Jets. Final game of the season. Goody, we'll see you then, buddy.
See you then.